It's all going to pot. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Take a Stand live conference. This is an extraordinary event where I am speaking with 35 incredible women who are all sharing a personal story of triumph over trauma. So I'm going to be talking with Meilin in a second, but as we're getting into the conversation, some of the topics are quite sensitive. So if you feel the emotions bubbling up to the surface, make sure that you get some support, either from family members. If you're not able to speak to your family members, reach out to your doctor. If you're feeling you're spiraling out of control, make sure you go and see the medical professionals at the hospital. There is no shame. It is all part of your trauma recovery and healing journey. We absolutely all go through it. So please make sure you have the support it is that you need. And I don't know if you can hear that noise in the background, but my cats have just started fighting with the neighbour's cats. So you might hear a rampant scream in a minute. The other cat's just chased the other cat in the room. Yes. So welcome, Meilin.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. You're very welcome. Yeah. Excuse my distracted face. When they fight, they really fight with the neighbour's cat. My cat screams. I've never heard a cat. You might hear it in a bit, but I've never heard a cat make such an extraordinary noise. And she's only tiny. She's not a very big cat. So, Meilin, can you share a story with us of triumph over trauma, something that has happened in your life that you've been able to navigate and overcome?
Wow, many trauma stories. And I would say many I've overcome. Other ones still pop up here and there, especially if I love sometimes to go and dig deeper so I can live more of who I am. But the biggest one that is a visual trauma is because I'm physically a little different than other people or considered looking different. I have cerebral palsy, so I limp, right? And the biggest trauma was really when I went then into healing. I did a lot of work with connecting rather spiritual and connected to nature. And I started my healing journey and then also went into shamanism and just spoke one day to my brother that I want to do more of the healing and help people also physically heal, because I've learned that with my hands, energy, or words or song, that works. Now, what I didn't expect was his sentence. He telling me, yeah, Meilin, if you can't heal yourself and you limp, who is going to come to you? And that was like a dagger, right? The broken healer, can the broken healer heal someone? And it still sticks sometimes. This must have gone, I know it did go very, very deep. First of all, it was a loved one. And he didn't mean it like, oh, you're bad and no one is going to come to you because you're a horrible person, no one will like you. He was just thinking out of very analytical mind, will people respond? Is that a profession for you to go into? Now, this is my life's passion. I've learned 20 years later that that's in me. I cannot not do it. But it put me in a backwards spiral. And luckily, I would say I stopped even for a while. I pulled back, pulled tight into myself. I tightened my body even more. I'm pretty strong, I would say, sorceress. So even this I can do really good, not just the expansion, to protect myself, because it's a sensible topic, right? Healing, looking different and walking different, the experiences of life of, first of all, you're being looked at, or I'm being looked at by other people all day long, everywhere you go. Now I'm in a state where I know, people are just curious, right? They want to understand, how is she? What do you, right? There is not really a judgment. But when you're younger, and maybe some of your audience members. Right? When you're younger, you're more sensible. You want to fit in. You want to hear good judgments of others. What do they think about you? And younger people are more honest, and so they'll tell you more how they are. But I would say that luckily, after a while, I did a class where I learned that I'm a physical channel, that I channel and change my body. And in that, when I dance, I have no limp. And then, someone saw me who I was dancing. And Isadora Duncan, she was a famous modern dancer in turn of the century of the 18th or 1900s. And I thought, what the heck, who am I? Why would a woman, a spirit of a famous dancer, come into my body and choose me, the one who limps, right? And that again put me on a spiral, but it was like a backward spiral that got momentum to put me again forward. And then it got me thinking, what is really my message to bring out to people? And it was then that we first of all can change our body, that independent of who we are liked by many beings. We have connection and support by many, because I saw that as an extreme support. Now this was more from the spiritual side, right? But there are many other people that also are here in our life to see the beauty in us. Like a friend of mine said, Meilin, they don't look at you like you walk, they look at your face because you're always smiling at them, right? And then you start recollecting these things and remembering this. And maybe that's also a tip to, if you can hear things, our own judgment, right? We always think how bad we are, but then to listen to the others and really soak and pull that in and soak in that lovingness of what women or your friends or your family members or men tell you. And yeah, so through the dancing, that I dance different and I don't have the limp, I thought, okay, maybe I'm a good example of what is possible. And that brought me on a whole new confidence. And so when I go out, I know what I can do. And then there were many other physical initiations, I would say, shamanic initiations, where I learned from that moment on then how our body is able to change. Yeah. So, and since then, I wobble, and some days I wobble more when I'm tired, and then if I have more energy, I wobble less. And I would say people that love me, they don't mind if I wobble. Yeah. And others, they don't come, and that's okay. We have a certain amount of time anyway, only to spend and cherish the time with other people. So yeah, that is a moment where maybe one sentence from a person that I really love was hurting, even though with him no deep intention in it, right? And I think things like this happen over and over in life.
Do you think there was something that do you think someone had said something to you previously before your brother, and what your brother said just triggered and reminded you?
Yeah, not be. There were many, like it starts with sports. In sports, when you're in a grade school, I can remember, right? You don't get picked into the teams. Until later, I was very athletic. I used a lot of, I wanted to learn everything about energy to strengthen my body. And I was doing then also a lot of sports, and I'm physically fit. I did many sports and was really strong. And then I was picked because I could hit, I have pretty good aim. It was a basketball or a handball or tennis, whatever other games. Or then, I was picked. So that was one. Oh, another moment is when you are, you're an adolescent and you start thinking about the other gender. Ooh, then people are more sensitive because they still find themselves and they're pickier who they take as a partner. So yeah, so you have many lesser chances, right? But then on the other side, you get very picky. You get people that have deep in the core a lot of love and see me on a different level, or with friends. So yeah, these things came over and over. A job, same thing, right? You don't write nowadays, oh, I have cerebral palsy, I limp, but people are shocked when I come into a room or a store. So it's over and over and over. So you're building
It's like a dripping tap.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a dripping tap, isn't it?
Yeah, and it goes everywhere. I would even go that it went sexually, right? You pull together tight, that you're not so much worse than other women. And then if you're supposed to surrender to someone, that was also difficult. So that, yeah, it things like this go very deep what other people say. And maybe I see it from a little different experience, but I've also learned from others. They have the same, and even if they maybe don't have a physical example of a huge difference, it may be just what they think of themselves or others told them, right? Parents can be brutal or don't want you to be who you are.
It's like with the dyslexia. It's I've had a lot of trauma because of the dyslexia. It just reminds me of that, because it's layer upon layer upon layer upon top of layer of someone's opinion, someone's thought, someone's criticism, someone's judgment, and then that all just gets internalized, and you end up changing your behavior based on all those things, negative things it is that you've been told.
Yeah, you become stupid, or you're told you're stupid. I have I'm dyslexia like you, right? Always F's in writing an essay or dictation. It and not people seeing who you are. So I'm very visual. So I never fit in the school system. In the normal, right, where it's more a lecture style and writing style the whole time. And I couldn't remember. I can remember images all my life long. They're in my face, in my body. But what I heard and remember and recall or writing it down, yeah, I understand you. That's another one where, and I just told that to my son yesterday. Often people have different experiences, right? And sometimes they just can't understand because they didn't have certain experiences. We have to find people that understand what we go through, and then they're loving. So you have many people listening now that had with traumas. Look for people, support. You mentioned so many just as we went on that went through it, so that they have a real understanding. Even at doctors, whatever you can find, did they go through it themselves, or with what kind of eye do they come, or are they really, really concerned about you? And then you can feel more safe, more embraced by the support, and it's easier to open up, I would say.
Yeah, and it's one of those, I think it's one of those traumas that it's much harder for people to get their heads around because it's so subtle. It's so subtle, and it's very, very, it's really personal. And one person who thinks they're being, one person who says something that is spiteful, that is mean, that is degrading, that puts you down, they may not see that as being abusive, as leading towards creating trauma, because it's such a, in someone else's eyes, can be very small, doesn't mean anything, what's that saying? I can't remember it. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt you. Something like that, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, something
Something
I
like
can
that.
remember. But you're right, I heard often the stupid. And I said that about myself into my 40s until a friend said, Meilin, do you know that you always say you're stupid? And I thought, oh my God, I'm saying that the whole time to myself. And then I observed that and it disappeared. Now I think it's rather seldom that I say that. But it was just a way of someone saying that to me and hearing them also say it about themselves. This is the interesting thing. And then we take it on, or then it's easier for them to say it. Yeah, words have a lot of power. So shamanically, I also look at words, and we have the ability to solve a trauma by looking at words, or words we use in writing to others, writing to ourselves, speaking them out loud to your loved ones, your clients, your boss, right? The more we watch out about what words we use, the faster other people can open up, and ourselves we can expand and go into this lightness.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think there's a definite toxic voice that I used to have, which was very down-putting. I was never kind to myself. I was really mean to myself. And when I moved into that space of completely changing my language and not tolerating any form of abuse towards myself, because ultimately that's what it was, emotional abuse, then things really started to change and shift. And I started to change and shift.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a profound effect, changing your language towards yourself and others. And I call it stinking thinking. Not have any stinking thinking towards anyone else or towards yourself creates a completely different way of being.
Yeah, and so energy, just looking at it at energy, the energy that it carries, and energy we contract and we expand, and we can speak it out and test it and try it. So how does it feel to say certain words or a sentence that you maybe have always thinking about? You say it out loud and feel what it does to your body, and then say another sentence that you love that puts a smile on your face, and you can sense how you expand. Yeah. And the same if you say to someone else. So, sometimes we're mad, but they're like also daggers, and they stick and they stay. And so before, even if you're mad at them, use other words, say, you can scream at someone and use nice words. It's really interesting. And then you laugh about it, and the other person laughs about it, right? And your anger turns around, and it is the healing, because we only scream more or less because they triggered something within ourselves. And so that then you get yourself out of it very fast.
I like that.
Little practice, little things. You can't do it when it's a very personal, deep thing. But with little things, like driving a car, some people, right?
Just send them love. Send them love.
From now on, drive better.
I love that. Steve, so Steve's been away in England for the last couple of years. He comes back in 5 weeks.
Oh, beautiful.
And I know we're going to have a bit of a rocky time because, I haven't seen him for a year. So it's going to be a challenge for sure, because I've got used to my own space. So I'm going to remember you when we're like having a row, or not a row, but we're just getting on one another's nerves. Rather than shouting something terrible at him, I'm going to shout something really nice at him and see what happens. I think that's really interesting. I have never done that before. I try not to argue now. I try not to get into heavy fights or disagreements, because I know it's just no good for you. So I think, what's the point? Why bother?
Yeah.
Whereas
but
before,
it does
I'd be
come
up
up
for a
sometimes,
fight.
and maybe not so often, but in that moment, then if you have you already set the intention whenever I will come or something will come. And if you already think about it and make the choice, now it stays. We have the ability to create our future and how we react. And even in something like this.
Yeah. I've never, I'm going to give it a go. I will let you know because I will remember.
Yeah, I had my husband was off and gone for a long time and coming back and forth, and yeah, you have to get, it takes it. When I was once in a boarding school, it took time. When I came home, I could even notice how things, because I was so sad leaving, how it came up things, and you got a little rougher, and then coming back, and then, but in the last years, once I've done my own self-development, I don't even know, but expanding, I should say, lightening myself up.
Yeah.
Then it was easier and easier.
It's silly little things though, isn't it? Silly little things. Like I like to have all the windows and the doors open. I don't like anything closed. He likes all the windows closed and all the doors closed. So it's like, it's just silly little things like that. It's like, finding that
good thing they have hinges.
Compromise.
Yeah, hinges up, open, closed. You have to do it anyway. You have cats, right?
But it just shows, doesn't it, how important language is? I mean, people say things without realizing the real emotional effect it can have on somebody, because people just don't think about what they're saying to one another. They just say it almost with no filter sometimes. And
there's so many cultural sayings, also, regional or where you come from, and they have been maybe here hundreds of years. But so that's also one of my interests. Then I go back. Where do these sentences really come from? What was meant? What are they still timely? Yeah. And and not that most of them are not, but we're still saying, because you always heard your parents and they heard their parents and they heard their parents, right? And or sometimes you're in another country and you hear words that are so different and you don't really know where it comes from either. So sometimes if you go back into it, there was an interesting thing going back into words. I saw culturally there was a beautiful thing. My friend and I were playing over the phone, what to do. And the Americans, they can say very easily, I'm the queen of sales. I'm just going to use that. Now you do that in German, we're both physical channels, so we were testing things out. It was hard to even get that over our lips, because first of all, we're no queen. And so the whole aristocrats, what it has done with the culture, how it has been, right? It's still here in the soil, it's in the landscape, and it's still in our body. And we played with it, or the empress, the Kaiserin, meant it to be then also feminine, and to walk was hard. We did a lot of healing about that to get rid of that. But you can see this is just two different countries.
Yeah.
And they, that's the new world. They left a lot open, or they cut a lot hundreds of years ago. But here it's still present in the landscape. So this is also important in looking. Also trauma, ancestral trauma, cultural trauma. Well, it's a huge topic.
It's a massive topic. We haven't had anyone talk about generational trauma yet. I'm not sure we will either. It's massive. I mean, especially as well. I mean, living in Germany as well, the history that that people carry within their own countries is
just wars. We have wars for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah, maybe I'm the first generation that doesn't have a war, more or less. But there are many cultures like this where there has been wars, or we've been on war, I don't know, since the Romans walked in and tried to destroy. And that's really interesting. You can talk about language. The first thing they did is destroy language. So they pulled people apart. So you can't speak their language, because there's sacred sounds, right, and sacred languages. Hawaiian still speaks a sacred language, so that's like a balsam. It's like a beautiful embodying cream. When you hear that, your body just expands,
Responds.
right? And yeah, so this is another very interesting thing to observe.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing then is that, you know, the story you've shared is, well, there was no intention behind what your brother said. He didn't say it in a he, and I understand what he's saying, because, you know, there's that. Oh, I can't remember. I keep coming out with sayings today, but it was pointless because I can't remember the right way to say them. So scrap that one because I can't
Yeah.
remember the right way to say it. But how words can really psychologically harm and compound and have a lasting effect for somebody, especially if it's so targeted around something specific, something that is already making someone feeling uncomfortable or
Yeah.
less than, or not worthy, or doesn't fit in. What society may see as a disadvantage rather than an advantage. So it's that it's really about bringing people's attention, I think, to be more mindful of what it is that they're saying to people and to themselves, because it ultimately starts with what you say to yourself, and just being more mindful about the way people express, have a conversation, to be more compassionate, choose their words carefully.
And it's practice, and it works, and it you know, at the beginning is maybe a little difficult, but it becomes easier and easier because we become the new words.
Yes, good point. Good point. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I like to think of things as much as possible as I can now from the perspective of, and if you've mentioned this a couple of times, being able to open, to expand and receive. And if you're picking the wrong words, you can forget the being open to expand and receive, because some words will just close that off, knock it down. They don't fit in that space. They're the wrong energy. They're the wrong they've got the wrong sentiment. So it's about thinking about how can you move forward into that place of expansion and being able to receive. What words are you going to pick to move you forward in that direction, rather than, you know, stay in the trauma, hold you back, keep you small.
Yeah, maybe a word creates an experience. Maybe that's the best way. And so every time you experience then expansion, your body remembers and it goes off, as same as we experienced the words that hurt us and we contracted. We're very strong beings. We can go both ways. And we have to decide, stop it. I don't want it anymore, right? So just got to stop it from you. And everyone I know, Wendy, for a long, long time. And yeah, so but that we go out now and decide to say, no, how do I want to live from now? How do I want to blossom? And how do I treat other people? And in a way, by you living speaking in a different way, other people will react to it because they feel how beautiful it feels, and they will start speaking different as well. And that's the most powerful thing. So we just don't do things also for us. It radiates out into the world and touches many.
Yeah, that's very true. Words creating the experience it is that you want. That's really powerful.
Thank you.
And if you're one of those people that speaks negatively about yourself or others, because trauma does that, it keeps you in a state of not being very positive towards yourself. You can play around with this. I mean, I have a rule and I call it no stinking thinking. And that's basically just no negative self-talk towards me or anybody else. But there will be times when I'm in severe anxiety and my mind is just like having a go. Every negative thing that I say I'm not going to say to myself comes at me in one go. And I literally have to just tell myself to stop, to shut up, stop, 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 stop. And I have to just overrun what I'm thinking in my head with all the words that I find, that are more compassionate, accepting, loving, to get rid of the, it's almost like a split personality, to get rid of all the negativity, all the trauma talk that is playing out in my head. So you can play around with this.
Yeah, there was a thought that connect to a tree, and because they don't think this way, it goes away. We don't have to do it by ourselves. But sometimes these thoughts come, and as long as you're in it and you know they're here, you can stay in it and observe it. You come then a little bit with an observer side, yeah, and say, okay, this is all, and you say, okay, this is, so be very gentle to yourself when they come, and you say, okay, now they're here, and I'm observing, and we come out of it automatically one day, and then, or a few hours later or minutes later, it depends on how strong. But then you have also the strengths and the condition to think different and change. So don't hit yourself over the head when you're in that phase and this down phase. Just observe it as I'm in there now, okay. But when I come out, and they will become less and less and shorter, those phases.
Yeah, definitely less and less, definitely shorter and shorter. It does pass, and you can come out the other side. It's an interesting, when you realize you have the choice to choose your words, it's an interesting space to be in. Because I think some people don't realize they have a choice about how they think about themselves, because they're so in it. It's like all consuming, all in it. They don't know another way. And they're still holding on to a lot of things that make them think that they can't talk compassionately to themselves or about other people. So it's an interesting space, and I know you love words.
Yes.
Meilin, knowing what you know now, what would you say to your younger self?
To trust more what my thoughts are, that they're right. I'm more the intuitive, the thoughts that come into my head, and to act on them without asking others, because they are not me.
Yeah, I like
and then
that.
Acting on it. Yeah, I do it now. So I'm still young. I'm gonna live 50, 60 more
Forever.
years. Yeah, a long time.
I'll see you on your 100th birthday. Maybe you can come over to Thailand, or I can come over to Germany. One or two, or we can meet in the middle.
Or somewhere, genau.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Hard. Yeah.
We've known one another for years, and we've worked together, and we've never actually met in person.
Yeah, that will happen.
I hope so.
It will.
I hope so. That would be nice. That would be nice. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing your story. I love the insight that you bring around it. I think it is really important to help people to see that trauma is way more complicated than these big things that happen to people. Trauma can be much more subtle, and trauma can be caused by words, by people saying things over and over again, different people in different ways, but meaning the same thing. It can have a damaging long-term effect for an individual, which creates trauma.
Yes, because you don't start acting, right? Because you always think it's not worth it.
Yeah. You change your personality, change what it is you're doing. You hold
less
back.
Courageous comes the word, less courageous.
Yeah,
to become
back.
Courageous.
Play small. I hate that, play small. I don't know why I use it. I actually don't like it.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Some words sometimes I can't even say.
It doesn't work for me, but I end up saying it, which is a bit, yeah.
Because we're beautiful beings. If I learned one thing, Wendy, and for everyone, we're light beings. We're beings here. We're all here for a purpose. And there's not one person that's more or less worse than you are. This is one important thing, if I would get it right. We were taught, getting back to the Middle Ages, all right, or the aristocrat, that people put on pedestals. But no, we have different talents, different reasons why we're here. Some do it quiet, some do it very loudly. And no one is less or more than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Meilin, for your time.
Thank
Really
you, Wendy,
appreciate
for
it.
having me and sharing my wisdom.
And we will talk soon.
Yes,
I know we'll
thank
talk
you,
soon.
everyone.
Take
Good
care,
luck.
lovely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.